Hi everyone, it's me, Lauren Cadillac. As always, before we get started, I need to remind you, I'm going to be talking about Texas law, and nothing I say in this video creates any type of attorney-client relationship. I'm simply giving you information so that you can know more about the law. Of course, I want you to call and hire my firm, 972-845-1200. We're called Cadillac Law. I'm actually filming in my second location in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm so proud to be located in Dallas and Fort Worth now. So if you need anything, visit us at cadillaclaw.net. Before we get started, make sure you hit like or subscribe. I don't know where the button is, but make sure you hit it and give the algorithm some goodness and help your friend. So today we're talking about how to be a landlord in Texas, and I gotta tell you, it's very easy. In Texas, we're a very landlord-friendly state, and tenants don't have a whole lot of rights. So if you want to be in a landlord-tenant relationship, being the landlord is gonna be the way to go. In Texas, when you are a landlord or a tenant, your relationship is governed by the Texas Property Code. It's going to be Chapter 92. So if you are going to get into being a landlord, or you're even in a landlord-tenant relationship as a tenant, I highly urge you to Google Texas Property Code Chapter 92 and just read through it. It's a lot of legalese and it's very boring, but it will definitely give you an overview of what you're looking at. Now, in terms of safety and security, landlords in Texas are required to have smoke and carbon dioxide alarms. You also need window latches, as well as locks for the doors, and not just a puny lock. There has to be a deadbolt lock. That's about it. You have to provide otherwise, normal, safe living conditions, but those are really your main requirements as a landlord in Texas. Now, when a tenant has an issue with a repair that they need, a landlord should address that without having to have a tenant send them a certified letter. But if a tenant does send you a certified letter asking for that repair, you need to make sure that you begin the repair within 7 days. So the repair does not have to be completed within 7 days, but it must be begun within 7 days. And if you're a tenant watching this and they've started the work but they haven't finished, I'm sorry, they've met their legal obligation. And now you see why it's great and easy to be a landlord in the state of Texas. The legal obligations are pretty nominal. Of course, we had the snowpocalypse back in February here in Texas, and a lot of properties became unusable. So landlords do need to try to make reasonable accommodations in those situations. But in that situation, we weren't really able to get to repairs within 7 days, and I told tenants that they're really gonna need to kind of chill on landlords, because it took me 3 months to get a water heater. So really not a great time for the whole state. Saw a lot of folks try to leave their apartment or their lease. If you are a landlord of one of those folks, I suggest you just kind of negotiate. It is a lot cheaper to negotiate with a tenant than it is to hire an attorney and have to do anything otherwise. So if you decide to become a landlord in Texas and unfortunately your tenant, well, first let me say you're going to need to get that lease in writing. If it's less than a year, it doesn't have to be in writing, but if you don't put it in writing, you have to give a 30-day notice. So if you're a landlord and your tenant fails to pay rent or whatever it may be, you have to give them a 30-day notice, and then you give them a 3-day notice. If you have your lease in writing, you just give a 3-day notice, and then you can go file for eviction. So you definitely want to have a written lease. It will make the eviction process a ton easier. So the process is, with no lease, 30-day written notice, then a 3-day notice, then file. And if you have a lease, either a 3 to 5 day notice, depending on what your lease says, and then you go file. You'll file into the nearest Justice of the Peace Court, JP Court we call it, and you will have to Google which one is the appropriate court for the address of the rental property. So you're going to Google it, look it up for the rental property itself. Make sure if you do have to file an eviction that you check the box in the paperwork to allow you to recoup your attorneys fees and court costs. Even if you do it without an attorney, if you end up needing an attorney later or hiring an attorney, you want to make sure that you can get that money back. There have been a lot of weird adjustments with COVID that I'm not going to get into because I think all of those things are going to be expiring soon, and hopefully we will get that behind us. But for now, if you're a landlord and your tenant is in default, you, depending on whether or not your lease is written, whether or not it's expired. So if it was written and then you never signed a written renewal, you're now on a month-to-month, a 30-day, and you each, both the landlord and the tenant, must give each other 30-day notice before the tenant can be evicted or removed. If you're just wanting to get rid of the tenant, maybe you need to give them 30-day notice if there's no writing. Wow, that was a lot of information. So landlord-tenant law is like, it's not difficult, and again, in Texas, it's great to be a landlord. It's a very landlord-friendly state. It's just a lot of information. So check out Chapter 92 of the Property Code, and if you're looking for legal help, you're a landlord or you're a tenant, and you need an attorney, you need some advice, maybe you need a lease, give us a call at Cadilac Law, 972-845-1200, and don't forget to hit like or subscribe. Thanks everyone, have a great day.